So here's the scene that I'm going to paint. Those mountains are really, really misty, majestic. And I really liked how these shrubs and bushes contrasted with a lower bush and the light that beams down there on the lower bushes, and then these bigger bushes just towering out in between. And also this beam of light in the foreground. So I love this picture for the depth, and I'm really going to emphasize depth and contrasts. And you'll see in the painting the contrasts that I have created in this. So I've just done my basic sketch using a wash of burnt umber with a little bit of raw sienna, just to block in where everything is going to be. Then I start putting in and blocking in the sky using big brushes, a large flat, and I start working the big shapes and the main idea of the painting. Using a bit of liquid gel medium, I just bring about the shapes in, starting with the sky, using a bit of cerulean blue with a touch of Prussian blue and white, titanium white. And then for the clouds, I'm just using a bit of buff titanium with a little bit of cadmium red and cadmium orange, working those big shapes of the mountains. I start with a nice Prussian blue mixed with cobalt and a little bit of blue-gray. And I just once again want to get the darkest down first, bringing about all these shapes. And I'm using a short flat just to kind of get the edges correct and to get the characteristic of the mountains. So there you can see I'm working from the top of the painting and gradually working my way down, blocking in all the big shapes coming into the foreground. And I'm blocking in darks first. You can see with the bushes, they've been modeled dark with just the idea of where the light's going to be, a turning point for the light, using a bit of sienna, raw sienna, and cadmium lemon yellow. Then for the actual foreground, I'm using buff titanium with a little bit of cadmium red and a little bit of lemon yellow. And in the foreground here, I am just working in some cobalt violet with Van Dyke brown and a little bit of primary magenta to get those darks down. And I'm really going deeper with the darks, and I'm really testing the envelopes of my colors here, bringing about stronger color as opposed to the more softer reference picture. So I'm busy working with the second phase of the painting. So a painting generally has 3 phases. Not distinct, but you start in with a blocking phase where you just get a flat blocking to get the paint down. And then you go into the second phase where you start getting a more nuanced approach for the values on the mountains, the lights and the darks, and in the sky. I adjusted the sky and made the sky lighter, especially after it's dried. I could really come in with those much lighter, creamy, yellowy type of colors into the sky, and it's just a soft yellow, slight bit of buff titanium with titanium white. And I'm using an angled brush that I've created myself using a large flat that I just cut off at an angle to create an angled shape that I can just use to model and sculpt the mountains and all these shapes with. And I'm working the deeper darks in those mountains first, and then I'm coming in with a soft highlight because I still want to retain the depth and that atmospheric depth. Even though I want more drama in the painting, I need that softness to remain and to create the vastness that I felt on the day that I actually took the picture. So in the blocking phase, you can't go quite as dark as what you do in the modeling phase. The modeling phase, you really start setting up the painting for its light and dark dynamic, being able to work deeper into the darks and to just push the light out a little bit, not too much. You don't want your lightest light to happen at this stage of the painting. You just want to keep it in a medium range, and you want to anchor more with your darks to bring about a strong coherence in the composition of your painting. Bringing in some sienna with a little bit of cadmium lemon in the foreground, next to these bushes in the grasses. And now I'm just working and just getting more detailed approach to the bushes, and I'm starting to work sharper highlights in there. I'm not going at the full strength of my highlights, but I'm just working on getting some really, really nice textures into that foreground to actually capture the ruggedness of the Fynbos biosphere and the fineness of these different plants, this biodiversity that exists only in this region of the world. And I'm using hog bristles that I have taken and I have shaped them into tools that actually creates more individualistic marks. So I would really just use a brush straight out of the box. I would take it and I might cut away and I might create a brush that looks more irregular in order to get different shapes. And I might have about a set of 10 or 12 of these next to me, so I can continue using them to create the grasses of the field and the kind of coarse, fine foliage of these shrubbery bushes that is there. Now I'm starting to key up the tonal values in the grasses, creating that nice contrast and depth dynamic that I'm looking for. And this is a really, really interesting how this is all coming together. I'm using a little touch of cadmium red ever so slightly in my yellow, which is a cadmium lemon light, and that really works very well for creating these bushes. Together with that, I've got a greyish type of a green that I am using as well. For some of the shrubs had a very, very different type of color. And you'll see in the dark shadows of the bushes there, I actually use a little bit of purple together with terra verde green. And this purple just helps with the green so that the green is not as obnoxious in the picture. I use these kind of colors like cobalt, violet, and primary magenta with my greens because they really, really just help ground those greens so that the greens doesn't stand out like a loose cannon in your picture. So the later in your painting, the finer you go with your brushwork. But I don't want to go too fine to the point where it looks really too static. I want a certain kind of looseness to stay in my painting. And I'm working there on this dead shrub that was sticking out its branches in that darker section that I found so intriguing in this painting. And you just want to put in some branches there and work a little bit of detail in the foreground, but in the middle ground and the background not so much. You can see my mountains are pretty much done. There is just no work that I would like to do there. I don't want the painting to carry heavy in the background, because it'll just overwhelm what you are doing in the foreground. And the key to great depth in your painting is to actually just keep bold brush strokes in the distance, like in the mountains, and then in the middle ground you'll add just a little bit of detail, but only save your detail for more like the things close up front, and bringing about more textures there. It's really creating the illusion of detail rather than just working hard on creating details. And it's bringing about building up that texture in the foreground. Lastly, I just want to thank you all for watching this video right up until the end. Please like and subscribe and leave a comment so that I can bring about more interesting and engaging artwork to you. Thank you very much and have a great day.